And now for another episode of Confessions of an Online Psychic with your host, novelist, filmmaker, and authentic psychic, Dave Thompson.
Howdy, I'm Dave, and today's episode of Confessions is about drugs and the psychic. Now, I can't speak for you, I can only speak for myself, but I am no stranger to the world of drugs. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I grew up in Austin, Texas, actually outside of Austin, on Lake Travis, in an area known as Hippie Hollow. Well, we all know the 60s hippies and 70s hippies, the drug culture, the counterculture, and I was around it all the time. In fact, beer was considered just another beverage like Dr. Pepper or Big Red. And folks, if you haven't had Big Red cream soda, you have no idea what you're missing. So, I'm a product of my upbringing. I'm a product of my generation. And I have, well, not extensive experience. I'm, not like Hunter S. Thompson, not like, Tommy Chong or anything like that. But I do have experience with hallucinogenic drugs. I'm not counting pot. Pot, all it does is relax me and put me to sleep. But let's roll back to the late 70s. And I was introduced to the world of magic mushrooms by a friend of mine. Now, she brought some mushrooms over. What we were going to do is we were going to have, kind of an outdoor movie party. I had recently purchased a 16 millimeter projector, which I still have. And I had gone to a place in Austin, South Austin, that rented 16 millimeter movies. And these were full theatrical movies. They were about 10 years old. So it was some, weird science fiction movie. I spent about $20 to rent it for the weekend. I said, hey, come over, bring some friends. The only one to come over was her, Desiree. And she brings over some mushrooms. She goes, oh, I scored some great mushrooms. You need to try them. I've never tried them before. So she ate one, I ate one. And the idea was to, let's watch this movie while we're on mushrooms. And be honestly, I thought we watched the whole movie, but apparently the projector never got turned on, and wound up laying in the yard. Now, this is out in the country, in the summer sky, stars overhead, and the effects for me after probably 30 minutes or so is that the stars began to move. And I started floating up towards the stars. And I just, oh my goodness, this was wild. I saw some colors, there's the red stars, the blue stars. The night sky opened up and I drifted off the planet. And it was like I was dead, It may have been kind of like a near-death experience. I don't know. I wasn't hurt in any way. I was just laying there. And my spirit just rose above the planet, and I'm among the stars. Now, they affected her differently. Hallucinogens affect different people differently. Looking at my notes here. She started, let's see, we had a bunch of cats, and these cats had turned into giant spiders. And so, I kind of woke up a little bit, and I had to hold on to her. She was having a bad trip, which I understand happens. And I have to point out that all of my trips that I've ever done on mushrooms, mostly done when I was younger, were more of a mystical experience than they were a scary trip. She had, hallucinations that were really bad. I saw spirits. I saw my dead grandfather. I was able to communicate with spirits, things I do now while I'm in an altered state. But at that time, it was achieved using these mushrooms, which is how my ancestors did it. Um, and I had no idea at the time that this mind-blowing experience was a good idea, gave me an idea of what alternate realities are like, the different dimensions that we have. We don't really have access to all these other dimensions because we are locked in our solid dimension. It's a very, very thick dimension. Everything here is solid, whereas the other dimensions, like where we exist in the afterlife or in the astral, they're more etheric. Um, things we can form things with our minds. But while I was on this trip, I was able to form things with my mind. It truly was stepping into the astral state. That's not to say everybody has that happen. Now, after the mushrooms, uh, another girlfriend brought over some acid, dropped some acid. A little bit different, walls melted, but when they melted, I saw a lattice type of structure, which I only came to recognize as maybe, the construct in which our world is created. So it pulled away the veil off my eyes and saw the construct of our physical world. Um, Now, the question is, though, in the 70s, I would read books about psychic power, I would read books about magic and Wicca, and they all were very, the best thing I could say, that they were more, proselytizing. It's like, keep your body clear, keep your body clean, no alcohol, no drugs. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm having these cool experiences. I'm having these really wild experiences. I'm not experiencing any bad effects. Of course, now I can't say that now. The last time I did any sort of hallucinogen, it just made me sick. And I'm not talking about, like the ayahuasca, which causes you to be sick as a purge. A lot of that causes that. This is something that I even had too much marijuana about a year ago via an edible, and it made me sick. The room spun, and that's what happens if I have too much alcohol. It's not that I'm a lightweight. It's just that, too much beer, more than 3 within an hour, can cause this as well. And I get sick. I get really, really sick. So, I've stopped doing it. But I can achieve those states of consciousness now because I've experienced them, and I can re-achieve those while I'm in deep meditation. Now, what I'm talking about now, though, is going to dovetail with my next episode. So I found that a lot of people in the magic communities, a lot of people in the spiritual communities, they tend to be a little dogmatic, and if they're raised in an environment which drugs are bad, then they're going to get all judgy and basically become what I call a pot blocker. You can't do drugs if you're going to be a psychic. You can't do drugs if you're going to be Wiccan. You can't do drugs, It's like, dude, settle down, okay? Yeah, I know, and in Central Texas, I was raised around a lot of Baptists. There was a Baptist church up the street, and it was wild, because this preacher's son would listen to the proselytizing on the weekends about don't do drugs, don't dance, don't do alcohol. Divorce is bad. Well, the guy was divorced, and he would get drunk on Friday and Saturday nights. It's like, dude, come on, if you're going to talk the talk, at least walk the walk. And they weren't able to do it because you've got to come to the point of view that altered states of consciousness is how we draw closer to that of, on the non-physical realities. So, okay, the Native Americans, the Indians, would use native plants like magic mushrooms, like marijuana. They would mix these concoctions together. They're noxious and foul, and they would use these to go into the spirit realm. And my experiences, mostly through college, with the hallucinogens was, the spirit realm opens up, and I can understand, the journey that the shaman would take. But to understand the mindset of some of the people, it's kind of a dogmatic mindset that's anti-drugs. So great, yeah, fine. If you are against mind-altering drugs, fine. I have found that they're a good way to preview what the mystical experience is like, and opens up my mind to what reality really can be. And, study reality means that we've got to study different realities. I mean, this is not our own reality. There are other realities. There's other timelines. I mean, I was thinking today, while thinking about this talk, about how my timeline got radically split in 1990 because a person who had promised to support me with making a movie did not support me. The fallout from that was I had to move from Los Angeles back to Texas. That movie never got made. The fallout for this guy, though, was even worse in that he lost everything. He could have invested the $5,000. That's all I needed, and then I could have made that first movie. But I was surrounded by people who didn't share the vision as well, like my now ex. So anyway, screw them. My most recent hallucinogenic experience comes from approximately 9 years ago, and I tried a stuff called Salvia divinorum. I think's how you say it. It's still available. There's some, esoteric websites that will sell it to you. The Mazatec Indians use this to achieve their mystical experiences and for divination. I tried it, and as a typical, for example, it took more mushrooms to get me on a trip. It took more acid drops to get me onto the trip, and the salvia was just very transitory. What happened? I can tell you that I was chewing it like chewing tobacco, and I had just a spontaneous out-of-body experience. And that's really all that happened. Then it made me queasy, and then I got sick. So, but the thing is, those who are really prohibitionist, they're against mind-altering chemicals, you may want to look at them and go, well, okay, how can you, see the future? If you're a psychic, you have to go into an altered state to do this, the gnosis state. You can achieve it through meditation, but sometimes it's faster to drop a hit of acid. Anyway, that's my take on this. Let's see, what do I have here? Yeah, I see, I do know from first-hand experience people can have a bad trip on acid. With me, I can achieve that now. I can achieve that state of mind through deep hypnosis, self-hypnosis. Go into that state, I can get there. It's not quite as vivid, as being on a hallucinogen. The colors, I still see colors very neutral right now, but that's it. So I've rambled on quite a long time here, so I'm just going to say, that's my experience with being psychic and having drugs. Your experiences maybe or will be different. It's a personal experience when you go into hallucinations. Just know that it is a gateway to the mystical experience, and if you have some nasty shit hiding in your subconscious, it's going to come through on one of these trips, and you're going to have a bad trip. So I didn't know it at the time. My conscious, I did not know it at the time that a bad trip is caused by the bullshit that's in your brain, and so that's probably why I didn't have the only way I could call it being a bad trip is if I spend 5 or 6 hours vomiting, which is what happened the last time I tried it. So anyway, that's it for this episode. Now I have made a commitment to my mind to at least do 12 of these, so this counts as like episode 5. And so I'm going to do 7 more of these episodes, hopefully before the move occurs, and then I'll be doing these episodes from the new facility. Until that time occurs, I am available for readings. No, I don't drop acid before I do a reading. I do go into a hypnotic state and open myself up for communication. I'll be very honest, most of the readings I do with people, it's a combination of counseling and reading the future. I see what needs to be done. I tell them what needs to be done. You know, you need to do this type of ritual, and I will help them with that. So it's a teaching experience. It's a magical teaching experience along with a reading. I'll put a link to my website so you can book me. And that's it. I will, until next episode, I'll talk to you later. Bye.